empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789.
Content that inspires, excites, and invokes dialogue, intellect, and this progressive movement. I'm your host, Kira Laws, and with me today is my co-host, who is now my permanent co-host. Hey!
It's
Laws.
official. And the crowd goes wild. He hits the game-winning jumper. 0 seconds left. Hey, y'all, what's going on? I know you may not know who I am. I'm the crazy guy. You can follow me at Senior Wabo 713 on all social media outlets. And welcome to a brand new edition of Society Now. I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to have gotten the opportunity to grace the mic permanently with this pretty dope journalistic attorney type mother wife type person to my left. You know, I certainly appreciate the opportunity.
I'm so happy to have you here. You know I am.
Hey.
So you guys, it's been a minute. I was off last week, but I'm back today, and we're about to kick this thing off because the news has been crazy. We've had a lot of things happen in the past week, and it's so much news we cannot report on it all, but we promise to give you some good content. So let's get right into it. Well, actually, should we get right into it? Is there anything we need to tell anybody? No? Yes?
No, I think we are right.
Okay, we don't. Okay, well, then we're going to get right into it. Okay, so this is something weird, and now I usually don't report on these encounters because I am a mom. Like was mentioned before, I am a mother, and as a mom, I feel like everybody is, has their opinion. But recently, Chick-fil-A, in a different place, Chick-fil-A, not here where we are, asked the woman who was breastfeeding her child to please leave the restaurant. This came because some other persons at the restaurant saw that she was breastfeeding. Now, mind you, her breast wasn't hanging out of her shirt. It's just the idea that a child was latched to her chest without it completely being covered by a blanket. Now, as a breastfeeding mom, I know that some people get very squeamish about that. And when kids get to a certain age, breastfeeding, they do tend to move more, and they don't really receive their head being covered by a blanket. And so the dialogue began, and people started going back and forth on social media about it. And they were like, well, how would you feel if somebody told you to go to a bathroom and eat your lunch? Or how would you feel if someone told you to go, in your car and eat your lunch, in your car where it's warm, or put your head under a blanket and eat? Like, how have we have over sexualized breastfeeding and under sexualized women when they have nude clothes on and things like that? How have we gotten to this place in society that we don't accept the fact that breastfeeding has been around since the beginning of time,
right?
Yet we find it to be sexual, and some women feel very insecure when they're out with their husbands and they see a woman breastfeeding, not nipple,
right,
but just a child latched to a breast. What do you think about
that?
Well,
you took the words right out of my mouth. We've not even over sexualized it, we've sexualized it, period.
Absolutely.
It's something that's beautiful. God created nature, whatever belief you subscribe to, created it exists for us, right, as mammals, right, and so it's one of those things that I think I do get it. I understand how it could make some people uncomfortable from an intellectual standpoint.
Yeah.
I can empathize, so to speak, but I don't have any problems or issues with it, because when you so some of the arguments that when I was looking at the comments, some of them were saying, well, there are kids inside of a Chick-fil-A, and it's a family place, and they may not want their kids exposed to that. And, okay, I get it, but when you teach your children the natural processes of life, bodily of life, of life, I think you mitigate and kind of minimize those kinds of conversations. But again, every person doesn't do that. I personally, if a person ever asked you to stop breastfeeding, and in my presence, we're gonna have a problem.
I understand.
We're gonna have a problem.
And I remember a few times I was out breastfeeding, not in public, but maybe even at people's homes. And I always would take a point to maybe like step into another room.
Right.
But not necessarily in a room with a closed door, but just step into another area where no one was.
Right.
And I always thought it was weird when people were like, oh, do you want to go upstairs into another room? And I'm like, are you ashamed? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine right here. I don't really feel like I need to go up to another room and close the door because I have some shame in my, I think that we as society, we have accepted so many other things, and we reject the things that are, well, I'll say more natural.
Yeah, we need to normalize.
We need to normalize it. And I'm not saying that every woman that breastfeeds need to run around and just, rip her shirt off and put, not that, but when the baby is hungry, the baby is hungry. And you can't, a lot of times, especially when a lot of new parents, not even new parents, but when it's a new baby, you can't really always control when they're hungry. And I can't, I hate to hear a baby crying because of hunger. Yeah. It's just a really sad situation. And Chick-fil-A did apologize for their response to the situation. I don't think they necessarily process. You think about the type of people that work at Chick-fil-A, most of them, the majority of the employees are young kids. The manager did come over and ask the woman to either step into the bathroom or leave the restaurant, whatever that statement was, to go somewhere that was more private. But I think it's terrible that she had to even endure that because the people that were around her were uncomfortable. And that just tells us how backwards, but how, we haven't progressed, but it's some shame in it.
I think it also raises from an organizational standpoint, it raises a good, an opportunity, so to speak, for organizations to maybe, especially that tout themselves as a family restaurant or a family business or someone who serves the public in a family nature. I think that there's an opportunity there to see if within the business model and their infrastructure they can actually provide spaces or private rooms or areas, like when you go to the mall, they have a mommy area in a lot of malls, right?
Yeah.
Where they can go nurse.
And I thought about that too. I was like,
maybe these family oriented businesses can
start implementing that,
because I think it's a shame, across the country. You'll implement a place to smoke. Right.
Absolutely.
But not a place to breastfeed.
Absolutely.
A place to kill yourself.
Right.
In effect.
Yeah.
Right. And others.
Right.
But not a place to give life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I totally get. I thought about that because I was like, what is so harmful of actually creating a space for mommies in places like Chick-fil-A? Like, why not do that? It's not a waste of money because, like you said, and clearly their model is about family. So it's interesting. They need to just allocate their funds differently or their thought processes differently. Okay, so something else is shocking. That I read, and I thought this was interesting news, that inmates now cannot receive donated books anymore. In NYC, they have to buy them. They have to use their commissary to actually purchase books because they're not allowed to get donated books. Now, I've never been to jail, and I haven't really put any money on anyone's books. That hasn't been my life. But I'm thinking that the amount of money that inmates get is not a whole bunch of money. And so for them to have to pay for books when people are willing to donate them, I think it is a crime and a shame. And I think it's unfortunate that our system, it's just something's really wrong with that. Because I'm like, I know there's so many organizations that want to give books, and we're not giving them information that's going to hurt them. We're actually trying to make them more knowledgeable, right? So what's the harm in allowing them to receive a donated book?
Well, there is no harm.
Okay.
I mean, to answer your question, there is no harm. What we're seeing is capitalism at its best.
Okay.
What we're seeing is prison privatization, which here in Texas, we are a known, world-renowned for that, right? What we're seeing is trying to make people buy books, right? People that don't have jobs, people that make 20 cents a day, right? You know, putting a burden on them in a commissary, putting a burden on their family members and friends and what have you. And so, potentially, just thinking kind of critically, it may provide sort of a security issue to have them free, because books are like a priceless kind of commodity on the inside, just like cigarettes and things of that nature, because it's to pass time. So they may tout it as, they having so many free books and free resources, we don't have a place. They may say we don't have a place to store them, or we don't have, it becomes a policing issue, etc. But still, that's a bunch of crap, because the job is to decrease recidivism rates. And one of the ways to decrease recidivism rates is for them to become properly educated.
I agree.
And so, when you don't allow books to come in freely like that, it's but again, it's because of these corporations that own these prisons. They want to make a buck some kind of way.
I think it's terrible. I really do. I feel like, it, for some reason, I mean, like you said, that there is this prison privatization issue that we have, and we also have the situation where I feel like there's also fear of being educated.
Right.
The fear of education. A lot of the students a lot of the former inmates that I'm reading about in the news currently all have come out with finishing their education somehow, either if GED or some type of college courses they've done, or they've gotten a skill or a trade, or and that goes to directly correlates with books. You have to have books for that. You have to be able to study for that. Is there a fear that we're over educating them by allowing them to have these books, and if we don't put a cost on them, then maybe if we put a cost on them, maybe there won't be so many educated inmates?
Listen, we know that, and I'm gonna go here for a second, so please let me do this. We know that prison is a new slavery. You look at the 14th Amendment, it is what it is, right? That's the legalized form of slavery, right? And so the one thing that slave masters and slave owners did not want to do is allow the slaves to become educated and to read.
Reading was against the law.
It was against the law. You will literally get killed. You would literally get killed if you do that. So you can call it fanatical. You can say I'm reaching, but there's definitely some parallelisms to that. You say that, do they not want us to be educated? And I say us because who feels the prisons, right? Black and brown men. The black and brown men feel the prison, so they don't want us to be educated even further. Like, they made a mistake, they're paying their time, they're doing their penance, so to speak, but allow them to get the tools so when they get out to be better and to be more successful. Let these men and women read.
Absolutely, and I think it goes to something so much more deeper, because it's unfortunate that we have to figure out. Because, a lot of people that go in jail, sometimes they lose their support system there. And so now we have persons that are like, if I don't read, or if I don't have something to do with my mind, I might go crazy in here, or I might just go, start adapting to a behavior such as, an untrained person. Right. And, become exactly what they don't want to become. Some people really don't want to become animal-like while they're in prison, because they don't have resources. So I just wanted to put that out there, because that's something people need to know. Right. You need to be informed about this. It's something that if you can possibly get involved in your city, local government. I mean, again, it is a private matter in most states, but knowing this information could possibly help you. Maybe there's something that you can do to make sure that, prisons don't necessarily have to pay for the books. Maybe somehow you raise the funds to have a fund for prisoners, so they can actually pay for it on their own. Like, I don't know how to get around that.
Well, I actually have a way to get around that.
Come on now.
I actually have an idea and an opportunity. One way that you can get around it is by making sure that your personal financial household is in order. And one way to do that is by supporting the people who are sponsoring this portion of the show, which is Houston Housewives of Finance.
Gotta love them.
Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? That's 33%, or more than 77 million Americans don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they don't have enough savings. Do not become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy today. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance at 1-844-700-4463 or email us at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com and ask how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Now remember, Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So y'all definitely need to reach out and touch them. Get in contact with them as soon as possible, especially if you are looking for some tips, especially in our new year, because it's still brand new. We are in January, and it's never too late, but you definitely want to get out there and ask questions. So we found out that what do we just discover? We discovered that the inmates don't get the donated books no more. They have to pay for them. We found out that CFA has a little policy where, I mean, I can't say that's their policy, but they're definitely
not supportive.
They're not supportive for breastfeeding in a restaurant. That's something people need to know, because I've been to CFA a lot of times. I do call it CFA Chick-fil-A a lot of times, and I see a lot of women in there with their newborns and their infants, and I just hate for someone to have a horrible experience because of this feeling of feeling insecure. Now let me ask you this, or let's celebrate this, rather not ask, but let's celebrate Miss Mikey.
Love it.
Miss Mikey, recently she came out and said that she is celebrating 1 year of sobriety. She was overcoming alcoholism. She's had some issues in her past where she felt like she became an alcoholic. Right. She's now celebrating 1 year of sobriety, and at her celebration party, her friend, who now is her fiance, proposed to her. So I think that's a beautiful story.
It is.
It's a beautiful story how she is now January reached her mark of 1 year.
Yeah.
And at that party she came out and her fiance celebrated her by proposing.
I think it's a beautiful time. It's beautiful when people celebrate, overcoming.
It is a beautiful time when people celebrate overcoming.
Alcoholism is something that so many people deal with, either undiagnosed and diagnosed.
And people have this thing with, I don't drink a lot, I'm just a social drinker.
Right.
And I'm like, but how often do you socialize?
Exactly.
So if you
That's
socialize,
a great question.
I'm a social
real
drinker.
talk.
So how often do you do the social drinking? Like, if you're going out 3 times a week, or you go out Thursday, skip Friday, Saturday, and you go have brunch on Sunday, but when you go down, you really drink, toss them up. Like, you might actually drink too much. Now, you might not want to call yourself an alcoholic, but it's something you need to monitor,
right? Because
it's one of those things that's very insidious, and you will start, displaying some tendencies that,
exactly.
And you don't want to have a situation that's regrettable, right?
For sure.
You don't want to have regrettable situations. So shout out to Miss Mikey for that. And also, I know we don't have it in our run, but also shout out to DJ Mustard. I think we talked about this recently. He was pictured on Instagram pouring out a whole bottle of lean that he had, because he said he got to let it go.
Right.
Because someone recently in the hip hop community died from an overdose. And I think it's important, because that too goes to addiction, drug addiction.
Yeah, it flat out is drug addiction.
It's drug addiction. So if you,
we lost one of our legends here in Houston because of it, on the toilet.
On the toilet. And then the thing is, we might have lost more than that.
Absolutely.
But, that's the only one that we actually can say. But it's a lot that, the lean, these laced marijuana, like all these things, like all these drugs that we're
Molly's,
all these things
Percocets
and all this stuff that we're doing to try to get this next high. I don't know what the answer is, but you definitely have to slow down on that for sure. You got to slow down on that.
The answer is don't do it. And if you are doing it, get away from the people who are allowing you to do it.
Absolutely. Don't be around enablers.
Do not.
Drugs are not cool.
At all.
I get everybody wants a little sip of a little wine and everything every now and then, but you have to do everything in moderation.
What did the commercial say? This is your brain?
And this is your brain on drugs.
Brain on drugs.
And I fry eggs, y'all. And I that
What?
Because that was the commercial.
I know.
And you fry that egg and that thing starts sizzling.
Yeah, I don't want my brain to sizzle.
I don't want my brain to sizzle. I'm like, I want every neuron in my brain to function. I want everything. The synapses is what it's called.
Synapses, yep.
I want everything to be firing off like it's supposed to, and I don't want to lose time or memory or life because I'm addicted to something that makes me feel good. There's so many other things.
You're preaching, Dr. Laws.
So many other things that make you feel good, and it's for free.
For the free ski.
For the free ski. Okay, so other things happening. Welfare. So recently, this is so crazy. there was a meeting, and Donald Trump, our president, actually only thought that African Americans were the population that was using welfare, or we were the biggest population using welfare. Either way, he was corrected in the meeting and was told that no, actually more white Americans are on welfare. And he was like, so what exactly are they doing then? He wanted to know what exactly was African American people doing, because in his mind, you know, he is misguided like many people. Many people are really misguided. I don't know how we got to this place where, well, I guess we got to this place where because we were pushed and shoved into low income housing. Our communities were disheveled, disbanded,
underfunded, schools underfunded. Yeah, for sure.
And so the assumption is that we're all on welfare, and that's not true. A lot of the people in our communities are doing the best that they can. They might be working 2 and 3 jobs,
right?
And you know, they might have some income or some government assistance, but by and large, white America. I'm gonna say white America, but you know, there's a large population of white Americans that are actually more into the welfare system than we are.
Absolutely.
And may have even found a way to benefit from it more, because I think those minorities that are in welfare, they are using it because they absolutely need it.
You know, his lack of knowledge of this speaks to 2 things quickly. Number one, speaks to his elitism. Right, and that he doesn't have to, because he's been a part of the 1% his whole life. Remember, he inherited about $15 to $20 million from his dad.
That's a beautiful thing,
right? Whew. And flipped it to his $1 billion empire now. So he's been wealthy, filthy rich all of his life.
Yeah.
So so certain things that's just not in his purview. He just
you can't really blame him for not knowing, but you blame him because he should have a board of counselors.
Well, at this point, he should know certain things that are cursory, that are sensory, that are very at a basic level. He should know.
Absolutely.
He should know who is on welfare more than most, because he's a part of what's supposed to be known as the Party of Innovation, which is the Republican Party, and they're the ones that are supposed to be the fiscally responsible ones. So if you're going to be fiscally responsible, then you should know these high level things that are actually truisms.
And I also think that he has to know these things, because I felt like when he was speaking to his base, he was speaking to those persons that are more likely to be recipients.
Absolutely.
And I think he had to know that.
Absolutely.
But I think that's that double-edged sword, because I feel like I know who my base is, but at the same time, I have to somehow undercut this particular group over here to make my base feel good about their situation.
Absolutely. And to keep them engaged,
yes.
you know, and you know, we also want to keep you engaged. And one way that we can keep you engaged is by making sure that you go to Facebook Live. And we want to talk to our folks that are listening and watching right now. Chandra Webb, Stephanie Rucker, good friend of ours. We appreciate you guys tuning in so much. Okay. And remember to go ahead and subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Review our show in iTunes with constructive feedback, and share this Facebook Live post with the entire show with your family. Let me say that again. Hit that share button, that arrow at the bottom right. Push it and share it with your entire family and friends. Donate to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. Again, we appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you later. Okay, well, actually, see you soon.
Yeah.
See you soon, hopefully. Okay, so now let's talk about the world's richest man. So the world's richest man who's on board, he has decided he is going to make a $33 million fund for the Dreamers. The Dreamers specifically are those persons who are part of the DACA Act, right? And currently, our administration is going through this process where they're trying to eliminate DACA and those recipients of this DACA coverage, I guess this shelter that they have, which would, in effect, deport many people, many immigrants, or many of those persons that are here, tens of thousands of immigrants, those persons that are working on education here, those persons who are trying to improve their life, you know. And so here he is, the world's richest man. He is the owner of Amazon, and he decided, or is this? Yeah. Okay. And he said that, you know, he's willing to put up $33 million to fund the Dreamers to make sure that they have cover. Now, my question is, as he funds this, if he funds this Dreamers Act, how does this impact? Are they able to actually benefit from it? Because what happens if this DACA, what happens if DACA is revoked?
So
what happens? What happens to the money then?
The intent here is the reason why they're trying to revoke DACA is because they're claiming it's a financial strain.
Oh, I see.
So he's in effect providing
The
a
resources
scholarship for the full program.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because what DACA does is what it allows. One of the big things. It does a lot of different things. One of the big things that it allows students to remain here and to go to school for free, right? And so if they're getting privatized money, they're still being documented. You know what's going on with them. They don't have an issue with that. It's really a kind of a line item kind of deal. This thing, the reason why they're trying to. The real reason why they're trying to get rid of it. Now, obviously, it feeds into the narrative of immigrants being dangerous and all of that. They try to push it into that as well, which is a bunch of bull. But the hopes is that if by giving this money, they'll just leave it alone. So, okay, well, at this point, it's not even an issue. It's not going to come out of our federal budget. What we thought it was going to be, especially with our budget not being passed right now. Right. With there being a federal shutdown. So that's kind of the mindset behind it from what I was reading and from what I know about DACA. So if it does get revoked before this deal takes place, because they have to have the processes and they have to have the infrastructure to be able to take that kind of money. I don't know if that exists right now. But if it does close down, I'm sure they'll figure out a way to give him some sort of something.
Yeah, because I think it's a very generous thing.
Oh my gosh.
To do. I mean, because he doesn't have to do that. I'm sure he doesn't know all the people that are being affected. So for you to actually open up your wallet and give that way, it's a generous thing to do. And I just want to one clap him. Because that's important.
It is. It's really important. I mean, he's in a part of the country where Amazon is located, where there are a lot. It's on the West Coast. There are a lot of undocumented and a lot of students who probably either work there because they hire a lot of young folks, or he's just seen that population and what they're going through.
It's good. That's really, really good. Now, on to something else. Now, the young woman, I think it was last week or the week before last, she went to University of Alabama, and she posted a lot of racist rants on social media, one of which came out on MLK Day. Now, after being notified, University of Alabama decided they was going to expel her. Her mom came out and said she co-signs, very much so co-signs with what University of Alabama did. It was like it was necessary because she didn't raise her daughter like that. I know she's like, some parents would expect her to side on the, on her daughter's side. She's like, no, but she deserved that, and hopefully this will help someone else out not to make a poor decision. What do you think about that?
Listen, I think of let righteousness rain down like what? Like a flood, like rain. And so I certainly agree, and I want to one clap that mom for that, because she stood up for what was right. Yeah. And as a parent, I think that's one of the main lessons you want to teach your children, is that you stand up for what's right. You were wrong. You have to deal with the consequences of being wrong, especially because I didn't raise you that way.
Because I didn't raise you that way.
You're representing our family. You're representing your dad's name, my name. You're representing your potential siblings, grandparents, whomever, everybody that's associated and affiliated with you. And so you bring that kind of scrutiny upon our heads. Secondarily, it's an issue of moral turpitude.
Absolutely.
Right? So I support it. I love the fact, because I would do the same thing. You tripping? I'm gonna publicly castigate you, so to speak.
Castigate. This is my SAT guy, y'all. He keep. This is one of these words I'm gonna have to figure out how to loop into a conversation this week, because you don't always get a chance to be around very, very smart people. So when you do, you have to soak it all up. So I try to soak it all up when I'm around it.
So sweet, baby.
I try to, this is not me being sweet. This is me being honest.
Hey.
Okay, so this is another thing that happened. This is about image and branding, which is kind of like the mom thing about image and branding. The image and branding about how she feels like her daughter should represent the family. Same thing is going on, but a little different on VH1 reality. Now, there was a young lady that was on a sorority show that was on VH1, and she's a member of a sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and as a part of that sorority, the sorority pretty much said, hey, listen, you're doing too much, we really don't like it. And then from there they made a step to pretty much say, remove her from the organization and affiliated with the organization, understanding that although it is a sisterhood, it also still is a brand, and it's an image, and technically it is a business.
Absolutely.
It is a business. Now she
multi-million-dollar business.
right, and so now she wants to sue the sorority, and I don't necessarily know. I don't know what her grounds are
Right.
for suing, and I'm trying to figure out what would make her believe that she had grounds to sue the sorority. Although I don't necessarily think that. Yeah, I don't get it.
So I'm really interested because I don't know. I don't watch the show that they're talking about, so I'm not sure if she did anything while she was wearing letters. Typically speaking, they don't allow that kind of marketing for organizations and brands and stuff to be on camera like that. I don't know if she talked about, like, I'm not really sure, but she is well known enough, and she represents Delta Sigma Theta, the women of Delta Sigma Theta, and so listen, they have every right to protect their brand. As Greeks, you and I both know that there are three main principles that every organization surrounds themselves around. There's some sort of brotherhood/sisterhood, some sort of unity, some sort of scholarship, being academically sound, and serving the community, right? And so if you going against those three large tenets, every organization has a different way to say it, and they have a couple more, but those are the three main ones. If you go against that, then I believe they have every right to say, okay, you know what, you're not upholding the value and the contract that we have with each other.
I believe that, and one of the things I did see is that they were, that some of the backlash that was given because of this particular show was that they view VH1 as ratchet television. VH1 has now went to this place where they don't necessarily even do videos anymore.
It's very little music.
It's very, very little music, and so they just kind of focus on and a lot of the ratchet television shows are focused on African Americans.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, one of the things that was said is that they were concerned, that the community that saw it and was like, we don't like the show, we want the show canceled, said that they hated that black women were being portrayed as using profanity, behaving violently, and verbally tearing one another down. I'm sure that every sorority out there will say that that's not what our values are.
Absolutely.
We don't allow you into this organization to put forth that image. And in that thought process, I can understand why an organization was like, you can't really be a part of this organization if you're going to represent that, and that's not what we stand for. And that's what we stand for. Not many sororities would say the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sure all of them would.
All of them would. And so she's suing the sorority on several counts, including breach of contract, defamation, and negligence. She's also seeking punitive damages. Now, my legal mind tells me that she may not get far with this because the organization and what they stand for. And that's what everyone signs up for. And if in fact there's any type of activity that happens like that, it usually happens behind closed doors.
I love the way you put that. Any type of activity.
Well, because it's like, if you're a sisterhood, sisters fight.
Oh, that okay. So
No.
Clean it up.
No, sisters fight. So if we're gonna have a sisters fight, so you can't.
For sure.
But when we out together, we are a united front. And so what you're not gonna do is
make everybody look. You ain't gonna make the family look bad.
You're not gonna make the family look bad. So
that's what your mother said. Don't make me look
right.
bad.
So in that, then that thought process is I can understand why they're they felt like she didn't need to be a part of the organization, and I can understand how they feel like they need to do something to cut off that type of thought,
right.
or behavior. So it's understandable. And it's sad because she looked like she was a really nice looking lady, and she had a nice smile.
Listen, she went to college, everything.
She had a nice smile, but I bet you her smile wasn't as nice as Elite Dental Wellness. Uh-oh. Okay. This portion of our show is brought to you by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern-day dentistry, continuing education, and a friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are a part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Ashandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness by calling 713-789-8680. Again, that is Dr. Ashandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness, 713-789-8680. Look at those teeth. I feel like we should do a commercial, babe.
Let's do it. Let's do a commercial. Ashandra, give us a call. We can be your models.
I mean, what you need, boo? What
Holla at us.
Okay. Moving right along. Disrespectful. So D.L. Hughley, who is hilarious, y'all, not just as a comedian, but he brings some gems. He really
He
does.
really does.
And he's a very wise man. He's a wise man. Y'all have to listen to him. He has been, ever since our last election cycle for the nation, he's been very vocal about how he felt about what he thought or who he thought should be in office. And so recently he came out and pretty much came from MLK the third and said that it was disrespectful for him to have a meeting with Trump, knowing that Trump was pretty much using him as a puppet. And when MLK the third was asked about his meeting with Trump, he pretty much avoided and dodged questions, and was like, oh, I don't really believe that he's that type of person. He might have misspoke and things like that. And you have to wonder, this is the same person that was said to have tried to, was selling his dad's memorabilia.
Right.
He was accused of a lot of things in the past. His sister sued him,
Right.
So you have to wonder what is his angle.
His motivation. Yeah.
And I don't think, honestly, I really would not have caught this if D.L. Hughley wouldn't have brought it up. Like, if he wouldn't have said, hey, bro, why did you meet with him? What's going on? We might have missed it. And considering the legacy that this man's father has had, D.L. Hughley said, this is not what your dad was about.
Listen, this was foolhardy.
Yeah.
It wasn't smart. It wasn't wise. When you have cats like DL's good friend
Steve
Harvey come out and say, yeah, my bad, I shouldn't have done that, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And other people who have not necessarily overtly apologized, but say, yeah, I didn't really like what I heard, I didn't really like what I saw, I was up there for 2 minutes and left.
Yeah.
It at the end of the day, Trump has laid his cards out on the table. That's one thing we can say. Right.
When he showed it, he told us who he was.
He told us who he was, and now he's showing us who he was. And
Yeah.
so for anyone to go and meet with him and say, I'm going to go under the guise of I'm going across the aisle and try to diplomacy and diplomatic. No, at this point, we need to get this guy out of here. We need to do something, find some sort of measure to hold him accountable. Let the people that we voted in office, the congressional leaders who don't like him at all, like whomever, but we don't need to, as someone who holds the pedigree of Dr. King, his name, the blood in his veins, it was wrong. He should not have met with him whatsoever.
I agree.
It's a waste of a meeting.
I agree. And again, we just need to be very mindful. And this goes to anybody, not just someone who is a member of the King family, but also anybody. We have to think our integrity and our character just speaks for us. And you have to think about how you engaging with certain people will reflect who people think you are, And so when you start having interactions with persons, but you're not willing to have a further dialogue to explain what you're doing, people start to give you the side eye, like, okay, now you say one thing, but you're doing something else.
Yeah, man. Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, you have to be really careful about how you keep your company. So it's just interesting. So hopefully, this is a lesson to everybody.
I hope so.
To just
Good
be
job,
really,
Bill.
To hold people accountable, people that we look to for leadership, and not to say he's been looked to for leadership, but there's a legacy, and we never want the legacy to be dismantled,
To be tainted, absolutely.
be tainted because of a poor judgment. Okay, this is really interesting. Now, for years, I know as long as I can remember, I've always seen persons other than us adopt children from Ethiopia, Africa, but just Ethiopia. In this particular article, there's a ban. Ethiopia is banning adoption of their children from foreigners. In the article, they actually showed a picture of Angelina Jolie, who actually adopted baby. I think her name is Zahara. And adopted when she was yet young. She's very young,
right.
And she hasn't been she's not the first person. But I think when we were discussing this, I was like, I was, trying to figure out the motivation behind it. There is a thought that maybe this being done because, we want our kids to stay here. Then there might be a thought of, well, if they're going to be adopted, let them be adopted by persons who uphold the same values we uphold. We don't want
preserve their culture
and preserve their culture. Yeah. And maybe that has a lot to do with the ban. Like, we need our children, even though we want them to go somewhere better, we want them to be in homes that's going to preserve the culture. And so this is a I don't necessarily know how to. It's a call of action, but it's also a call of. It's a call to attention, really. Like, pay attention, because they're making a stance.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I'm interested because I agree with you. I don't know what the motivations are. We have to do some more digging. But the other side of the coin is, are they limiting and in providing available roadblock or blockade for children who do need to get out of dire circumstances, right?
That's true.
So there's two sides, two polarizing arguments that I can think off the top of my head that that really needs to be considered, because some of these kids dealing in Ethiopia by and large is an impoverished country. There are sections of Ethiopia that are not absolutely impoverished, but then there are largely sections that are, and they're dealing with unrest, et cetera, et cetera. And so, does this ban? What does this ban do? Does it? I don't know. I really don't know. It's very interesting. We have to stay on top of it.
Well, I know that I'm reading a statistic, and it says U.S. international adoptions from Ethiopia between 1999 and 2016, there were 4,300 kids that were adopted under one, between 1 and 2, 3,900,
Wow.
between 3 and 4, 2,200, between 5 and 12, 3,800, between 13 and 17, 873, and between 18 and older, 42. So it lets you know that there's a lot of kids coming to the States being adopted. And Ethiopia is saying we prefer for them to get the welfare that they need from the state agencies here. And there's some question about, is that sustainable? And
Right.
what's the really
What's the root of that, man? I really would like to dig
going
into
on.
that.
So, as our nation is changing, as the globe is changing, the world at large is changing, let's keep in mind that, everyone doesn't always have the same thought processes about what welfare looks like, child welfare and things like that. And we also need to think about how deep culture runs and the preservation of culture. Because I think there is something where they say that, people from us, we need to take care of our own.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's speaking loudly.
It is. It's screaming.
Now let's talk about Payish. Now I watch Blackish, but I'm calling this Payish. So on the back of everything that's been going on, we've had so much information about, I'm not sure, sexual harassment, especially in Hollywood, has been but it's not that it hasn't happened anywhere else, but persons in Hollywood have come out now. We have the pay discrepancy everywhere in the world, but of course in Hollywood it's coming out now because I think they have a platform that they can use to talk about it. And we have, as persons, they're not trying to say they're better, but they're actually trying to draw attention to it's not isolated, right? So Blackish, the stars of Blackish are Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross. Anthony Anderson actually gets about, he gets $500,000 an episode, and Tracy Ellis Ross only gets $200,000 an episode or something like that. And she's saying that, if in fact they don't, stabilize the situation, that she's going to stop doing as many appearances on the show. Some people are saying that that's not fair. Well, because Anthony Anderson is an executive producer for the show. They was like, well, that check is separate. His executive producer
so I didn't
check
know that.
is separate. Is what people are saying. I was like, that's not. This is his actor's check.
Okay.
And so for his acting check to be that much and hers to be $300,000 less, that's a huge pay discrepancy. But it's on line with what we know about the pay discrepancy in general across the board in the United States, which people always try to deny. Even recently, when we talked about the movie that, what is her name, Michelle Williams is in with
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, they needed to do a reshoot, and he was getting paid $1.5 million when she was only getting paid $80 a day.
Right.
That's a huge pay discrepancy.
Right, she's getting a per diem. That's it.
A per diem, and that's it. And why was he valued more? And he's like, well, I'm willing to donate my money to whatever fund needs to be donated to, because I guess he was totally unaware.
Right.
But it's unfortunate because there are some people that actually are unaware, but then what happens to those people who are? So, it's just, we got to do something about this discrepancy, y'all. Again, we're bringing this news to you because we want you to know it's not just happening to you, or it's not just happening on your job, but it's happening across the board everywhere. And a lot of people, I'm glad the light is being shown.
Yeah,
I'm glad
that Hollywood is advertising what's going on.
Absolutely.
And, they have the platform to put it out there to broadcast it because they have so many followers and people that look at them and listen to them. So shout out to that.
Shout out. And talking about advertising, this portion of the show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and our inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Again, the number is 832-772-7789 or email us at advertise@thesphere.tv. Yay. Hey. Listen, payish, disrespectful, people not adopting anymore. I don't know. There's so many things going on, but there's a light side.
Yeah.
There's a light side. So the beautiful thing is, on the lighter side, is that we have persons like Bill and Melinda Gates, who have also kind of like, the owner of Amazon, but they have decided to step up in a different way. And they decided, this especially came on the back of actually when the Freudian slip happened, when our commander-in-chief talked about the S-hole countries a couple of weeks ago. Well, right after that, shortly thereafter, Bill and Melinda Gates decided they were going to pay off Nigeria's $76 million debt. $76 million debt.
They are saints, man.
because they needed, Nigeria had a polio issue.
Right.
And they borrowed money. And they needed to, the money was supposed to start being repaid this year.
Right.
And so, as an act of kindness, Bill and Melinda Gates decided that they would pay the debt back for Nigeria to help them get out of debt, and so that they could, in effect, not be the S-hole country that somehow they've been. And we know, and I know too many Nigerians, and that's not true.
It's not true.
Africa,
it's not true.
Haitians, across the globe. We have places here that could be considered S-hole, right?
Right.
Country, city, states.
Neighborhoods, the whole
neighborhoods, and so it was very much inappropriate. But I'm glad that Bill and Melinda Gates was like, listen, how can we fix some of the issues that are happening in the world? Not to say that he was right, but how can we help them?
Yeah, and that's really what it's all about, right? Even if you recognize that some certain places are less desirable than we would subscribe to in our American isms and our American spoiled ways. You need to be a part of the solution. And so Bill and Melinda Gates with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have been a part of the solution for the better part of 25 years. They are advocates into policy, reformation, humanitarian rights. And so this is just on par for what that foundation has been doing since Jump Street. So shout out to Bill and Melinda Gates for this. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, because it was important. It is important. Another thing that's happening, and I want to just highlight this real quickly.
Yeah. But it's worth noting, though.
Worth noting, the Women's March.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the Women's March. So this past weekend, there was a Women's March on Saturday. It happened in all major cities across the United States. And they're saying that more than 200,000 protesters attended the march in New York. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Los Angeles, 600,000 attended. Chicago, 300,000 attended. Yeah. Thousands turned out in Washington. Thousands in Philadelphia, Austin. That already we're over 1 million, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And that just tells you how infuriated or how tired people are. I think last year when women marched, they marched for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year we're marching, yes, for solidarity, but it's so much more.
It's so much more because there's so much interconnected or interwoven accountability within the solidarity, right? So last year women were marching against Trump, but then it came out that 57% of white women voted for Trump. So you had people that were of the same tune of get rid of Trump, But then you had folks who are women of color, but not even just women of color, who are women who are wearing signs out saying, listen, if we're talking about accountability, let's be honest, some of you that are here at this march are responsible for this guy being in office because you're part of that 57% of white women that voted for him.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad it was peaceful.
Yeah.
Because we saw sign after sign after sign of people saying that they were going to keep each other within the group, within the gender accountable. But it definitely was a show of solidarity that stuff has to change.
And then, but it was also a petty thing too, because at that morning of the march, our president tweeted out that yes, women go out there and march because now unemployment rates are lowest they have been for women.
Yeah, in 18 years or something like that.
18
he said.
years, and I'm like, this is not why they're marching. They're not marching because of unemployment.
Listen, I'm
like, sir, stop trying to spin.
He's a master spin artist though.
He's a
like
spin artist.
He really is.
And I have, it's really sad because I'm like this is where we are. But he's a master spin artist. Of course, no one really pays attention anymore to like whatever, bro. But this is not. Of course, you have to know that this is not why women are marching. So hopefully he is a little bit more informed and sensitive, because those types of comments come across to me a little bit as insensitive about real issues. Like, I'm going to disregard the real issues and push my own agenda.
Yeah.
Even with I know it's not in our run, but we talked about it briefly about now they have advertisements coming to your email about Trump Care. Now it's not Obamacare anymore. Now it's Trump Care. Now if you miss your health care deadline to enroll, you can enroll in Trump Care. So it's a lot of things that are happening that we need to pay attention to, because it's all about, I guess, building yourself up for the next thing. So it's really unfortunate. Now, this is a funny story. It's not funny, but it's funny.
Oh,
Okay.
this is funny. This is funny.
It's a guy. His name is Ryan Hawaii. Let's start there. His name
it sounds like.
It doesn't sound like a real name, but
like
it's
a
his
pimp.
name. He was arrested for trying to wear all of his clothes on a plane because he could not pay for the $90 baggage fee. He said his sister paid for his ticket home to London when he went to visit her, because he was stranded there, and he didn't have any more money. He was like, well, in order for me to get home, I have to like put all my clothes on. And apparently, when he got there, it was like, you can't get on a plane like that, or we're not going to let you. And he was in Iceland.
I'm trying to figure out what was wrong with it though, because he goes through the I don't know what this is called. I'm gonna call it an X-ray machine. I'm not sure what it's called. Going through security, they can see through all of it. So if he has nothing on, it looks weird, yeah. And he might a little large, and I'm sure he would have been extremely uncomfortable on the plane with all those layers on. But like, why arrest him? I don't know. Was he belligerent? Was he?
He said that he was like, they wanted me to take my stuff off. They're telling him you need to take your stuff off, and he was like, y'all are treating me unfairly. This is, y'all are being racist, blah, blah, blah. And he went through his whole little spill about why he felt like he was being treated wrongly. And I'm like, okay, I know they've never seen that happen before.
Yeah. So what law did he break though? Why arrest him?
But how big was his clothing that they
right.
felt like it was going to become a distraction?
Yeah,
I'm
I don't.
like, how? Because I can't imagine that he was going to get on there like he had a fat suit on.
Right.
It was like he wasn't there very long, so I can't imagine he had a bunch of clothes. But I think it's also really unfortunate that he wasn't able to have enough money to pay for baggage. I mean, that's sad. But then I was like, most international flights, baggage is free.
It's free because it's international.
Airline were you flying? Like, I need to know these things.
So we don't book them.
Yeah, because I'm like, international flights, your baggage should fly free, because that's not a common, that's not a common flight. So this is just my thought. What airline was it? I'm like, I just need to know. So hey, so the message here, people, please don't try to avoid paying a baggage fee. Unfortunately. Fly with an airline that does not charge you a baggage fee. And if you there's a baggage fee associated with flying, try to just limit the amount of bags, because I'm like, a $90 baggage fee does sound a little bit exorbitant. I don't know. It's just me, but I think that's a lot of money.
We just saw a tweet that it was British Airways.
British Airways. So,
British Airways. Wow.
So, yeah, we're not going to do that. Okay, so now we have a race in space. So last year we found out that there was going to be a lady, her name is Jeanette Epps, who would have been an African American International Space Station member that was chosen to go on a mission in June. Well, later on, she was told that the plans were changed, that they pulled her off of the team and told her that she would have an opportunity to go later on. Well, later on, she finds out that the trip is still happening, and they're trying to figure out why was she pulled off the team. Her brother tweeted out, said, my sister has been fighting against oppressive racism and misogynistic ways in NASA since she's been there. And he was like, she deserves her day to figure out what's going on and why they're treating her this way. She would not have been the first black woman in space, first black person in general in space, but it's unfortunate. I wonder what's leading to this happening right now, because it's not like you have opportunities every day to go to space. So the likelihood of her going again, I think, is what we need to figure out. What happened that made them pull her off of the trip?
Yeah, and she would have been the first African American crew member at the International Space Station, which there are a lot of factors that go in because it's just not one country. Yes, NASA's manning it, so to speak, and kind of managing the whole thing, but there are a lot of different countries represented at this facility in space, and so there could be a number of different reasons. But we know that government isn't, has had a history of not favoring POCs, persons of color, and so why should NASA be different? It's unfortunate, man. It really sucks.
Yeah, taking her off and replacing her with someone else, and saying that she would be considered for future stage travel, and I'm like, that sounds like she did something bad. You know what I mean? And
it sounded like she got fired.
Yeah, and I don't like the way that was worded. I feel like if she was the front runner at the beginning, she should have stayed the front runner.
I remember when I was in college, I had a job, and a guy that I worked for was like, I want to, in effect, he didn't say fire, but he wanted to, in effect, give me a leave of absence, send me to some training, and then have me re-interview. And that was going to take like 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm like, nah, bro, I'm not in 4 or 5 weeks. I'm not making any money. So you're firing me is what you're telling me. And it sounds like the exact same thing.
It sounds like that. And I think, and this goes to a conversation we had just had with some good friends last night about not being accepted in the workplace and being very careful about how you share your opinion or how you share your feelings about things, because by and large, we are the most misunderstood group.
Agreed.
We are already have a stigma and biases toward us because of stereotypes that have been perpetuated from long before you and I have been here, right? And
our 21 years on this earth.
And so a lot of times we're fighting against stereotypes, negative thought processes, biases that have existed and have nothing really to do with us. And so there is a internal self-assessment we have to always go through every time we walk on a job, every time we decide that we're going to sign up for something, about how far we're going to really put ourselves into that situation, how much we should commit to. I mean, it really is, and it's unfortunate because I don't necessarily know if any other group has to go through that. We look different, our hair is different, our facial features are different, and we have to conform. Anything can be misunderstood at any point. And I wonder if there was a situation where she was misunderstood and people felt uncomfortable, and so they felt like she might not be the good fit for the job. I hope that's not the situation, but I always consider that when I hear these stories, especially what you just said, because we, telling someone you're going to go back home and we possibly may consider you for something in the future, but it's not guaranteed. But we pulled you off of this one, although I've been training for this one, and because the training period is not short. So it's just something to think about.
It is.
Now, our last little story of the day is how petty the White House really is. And they put their pettiness on 10.
Times 10.
Times 10 on 10. I mean, just craziness. So the White House has changed, and this is real life, y'all, changed their answering service to say, thank you for calling the White House. Unfortunately, we cannot answer your call today because congressional Democrats are holding government funding, including funding for our troops and other national security priorities, hostage to an unrelated immigration debate. Due to this obstruction, the government is shut down. That is the voicemail you hear if you call the White House. I don't know if we should, this stuff right here, it should not even be happening. Like, why would you leave that as a message? And I don't know if is that in response to, like, how do you, that's ridiculous.
It's untenable, man.
I'm like, because, the shutdown wasn't
ridiculous.
because of the Democrats. Because my understanding, there was a bipartisan agreement on the table that they rejected. Not the Democrats, but the president rejected.
Right.
And if in fact you can't come to an agreement, this is the things that happen. If especially you keep threatening shutdown. So now people can't work. It's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this shutdown doesn't last too long, because there are people out there that need their jobs. But I think that although this is the highest degree of petty, it's the lowest thing you can do. Mm-hmm. Because what you're trying to do is divide the country, and we don't need any more division.
We're already divided. We're the divided states of America.
We are the divided states of America, and we need to get back to a united state, or find a united state. Maybe we were never really united, so maybe we need to work on that. But right now we're very divided. So that's what's going on in government. We just, our hope is that this all will be rectified.
Yeah. So there was a stopgap. It happened, like, honestly, on the way here. I saw when we pulled up. I saw a headline. There was a stop. And we can report on it a little more next week. But that they voted to shut down the stopgap. So the government should be coming back online. So here with you real soon.
Okay,
next
good.
couple days.
That's awesome. Well, you guys, it's been a wonderful time here on Society Now. We're so glad you could join us on this wonderful Monday evening. We hope that you have an amazing week, and we hope that we see you again next week. You tune in with us. My name is Kira Laws. You can follow me at The Modern Day Cindy on Instagram, and this is my handsome co-host.
Hey, y'all, make sure you follow me at Senor Wapo 713 on all social media outlets. Go to my website, check it out, senorwapo713.com. We'll see you next time.
All right now.